everybody. I was just going to show you what I'm working on today. So today I'm working on what I call my separation or isolation tower inside my hen house. This is not always set up in my hen house, but it is always available. I bought these dog kennels very inexpensively off of Marketplace. I think I paid $10 a piece. They're a little bent, the trays are missing. That's okay for your chickens. Look for something that someone else no longer has a need for and then repurpose it for your chickens. If you have chickens, you know that they're gonna make a mess of whatever you put in there. So make sure that you are looking for opportunities that way. Since I am going to stack them, this one will be on the bottom. So it will sit right on the bedding inside the hen house. But I'm going to stack this other one on top of it. So this one will have straw on the bottom. This one, what we've done is we've put a layer of really nice cardboard in the bottom, and then we've also split it. I have 3 hens that I for sure want to isolate today. I have one who I think she's bullying the others, and then I have 2 that look like they've been bullied. The 2 that are being bullied, I want to minimize their movement. I want to really get them to calm down. I want to give them a nice central place, soft place to be able to recover. So they are in here. They're going to be in here. I split this in 2 to give them a little less space so they can just really like nest down and start getting to recover. Each will have their own food and water, unlimited food and water as they recover, and they will all have a box, including my suspected bully that is going in this bottom cage. So they'll have a box with straw in it. You can see I already have these installed here. And then I would probably keep them in here for 2 or 3 days and try to identify if my 2 that look a little rough, are they just molting? Are they maybe getting broody for some reason? Do we have a dietary issue? What is going on that's making their feathers look so rough? This is another option that I use. This is an old rabbit cage. You can see there was a place where a tray went in here, and I actually have a board in the bottom of this one. This one works really well too. The board doesn't cover the whole thing, so I do have to be careful when I stack them. I normally put cardboard in between. We never want the droppings from the one above to go on the one below. And we always want to make sure that they're really comfortable. So when I put my tower inside the hen house, I'm going to place at least one of the sides of my cages against the wall. That way the other hens can't come and peck at them through the fence. Okay, so we want to make sure that they're nice and secure. But on the other hand, they're very attached. They're very bonded to their flock. So since there isn't any sickness, there's no illness, I want to leave them with their flock if I can, and for as long as possible. I do have a secondary building that I have cages similar to this that are on shelves. So if I have an illness, which doesn't happen too often, but if I do have an illness, I can separate them away from the flock. This stresses them out, so if you can separate them and keep them with their flock, in my opinion, that's the best way to do it. So we're gonna take these out and get them all set up and get those ladies separated out and make sure we can get them feeling better. So I wanted to talk about why I isolate inside of my coop. So there's lots of reasons why we might need to isolate the hens inside the coop. This time we were isolating because of bullying. I have a bully. She definitely is the bully. When I removed that hen that I thought was bullying the other 2 and put her in the cage, it was amazing the calm that went over the entire flock. Even the rooster seemed to be a little less upset. So I'm going to leave her in there for 3 or 4 days, and then I will reintroduce her into the population. If she continues to do the bad behavior, we will re-isolate her again, and we'll do this until the behavior stops. The 2 that she was bullying are doing very well. They are in the cage with the little bit smaller space because I want them to reduce their movement. I want them to really focus on getting well. So for the first day, which was yesterday, they pretty much just slept and ate. They both ate lots of food and drank lots of water. They both nested down in their little box and had lots of sleep. I have eggs as of today, so they've started laying again already. I'm going to give them a couple more days to just really recover, and I'm going to give them some extra supplements. I'm going to give them a little bit of liver, and I'm going to give them some black oil sunflower seeds, and maybe a few other things, some scraps out of my kitchen. I think I still have some zucchini from my garden last year. So I'm going to give them some stuff to build their bodies back up after they've had the rough week from the bullying. So that was why we isolated this time. And again, we isolated with the cages inside the coop. So we didn't actually isolate them from their flock. They're still with their flock, but they are unable to interact fully. There are other reasons that I isolate inside the coop. Let's say somebody has a bumblefoot or an injury of any sort. It's amazing how your chickens can injure themselves. They're very creative at the way they injure themselves. And you do not want to have any bird in your flock with any sort of blood or injury. The other chickens will peck at it. Chickens are ruthless. They will pick on each other. They're extremely curious, and so when one is injured, they literally can peck them to death. So you want to make sure you're on top of what's going on with your flock and maybe isolate them if you need to. Another reason that I would isolate hens but keep them in the chicken coop is if perhaps I've sold some of the hens, and I've sold them and the buyer wants laying hens. So I would pull some of the hens out, pick some really great hens for this customer, and I would put them in their cages and make sure that they're laying, and let them really get calmed down. So that would be one thing, is to check if they're laying. Another reason why I sometimes use my big cages and I isolate inside the chicken coop is if I have a broody hen. A brooding hen, if she doesn't feel like her eggs are safe, will not eat or drink, and you can lose your hen, or you can definitely have a very sick hen, and then you're not going to have a very good clutch hatch. And I will put my broody hen inside the cage. It solves a lot of problems too. So like if other people are gathering my eggs, I don't have to worry about them gathering those eggs that I'm letting that hen set on. But mostly I'm really worried about the health of that hen. Make sure she has as much food and water as she wants, and that she knows that her eggs are safe. Another reason why I might have hens or chickens inside of a cage like that inside the hen house is because I'm introducing them to the flock after quarantine. Okay, when you put the cages inside the coop, this is not quarantine. It doesn't count as quarantine. What we are doing is we are keeping them with the flock. They can still interact through the wire, which is why it's important to have at least one wall where that hen or that chicken can get away from the rest of the flock. You want to have that security area. So if I have some new birds that I'm going to introduce into the flock, I would put them in a large cage or in an area where they can interact through the wire, get to know one another before I just let them in there. Those would be some reasons why I isolate inside the coop. I'm sure there's more. That's what I can think of right now. Now, let's talk about isolation outside of the coop. Isolating outside of the coop is going to be very, 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 very important if you have any sign of illness. Some signs of illness for a chicken would be wheezing. They're breathing abnormally. Their comb will be really pale. A lot of times they'll be almost like an ashen color, a gray color. That's not good. You want to definitely get that animal out of the flock and make sure you don't have something contagious. Another reason would be a sign of illness would be maybe drainage of some sort, sour crop, or some sort of blockage in their crop can cause them to like kind of drool. But other things can cause that to happen as well. So I would definitely isolate outside of the coop if that was to happen. Another reason why another thing that I definitely isolate outside of the coop is if I have a prolapse. So if a hen lays an egg or something, and maybe it's too big, or she's getting older and she's just not as healthy, sometimes the vent where the egg comes out will actually fold out, and so then you'll have a little bit of tissue that sticks out. This prolapse is going to intrigue the other hens. You need to remove that hen from the flock as soon as possible. I like to remove her from the flock and place her in isolation because I reduce light. I don't make her stay in the dark completely, but I do reduce light because reduced light reduces the likelihood of laying another egg. And I don't want her to lay eggs while she's healing. So I reduce light. I remove any sort of feed that would encourage her to lay. So if you're feeding a lay-in pellet, I would do more of like a scratch, and go to more of a maybe even chick food. A lot of times, sometimes I'll give them my chick food instead of the lay-in. It has increased proteins and vitamins and minerals that the chicks need. Would definitely help the hen as she is recovering from prolapse. But prolapse is one of the reasons why I remove them from the flock when I'm isolating. All new birds to my property come through a minimum of a 60-day quarantine before they get introduced into the flock. Those are completely quarantined, a minimum of 12 yards away from my hen houses, and that the other chickens cannot get up to them. So when my chickens are free ranging, they can't get up to the fence, they can't get on top of their pen, they can get no contact with these new birds until I'm sure that the new birds are disease free. The other reason we would quarantine a bird for 30 to 60 days is if it came from a show. So if we took some hens to 4-H for the fair, we would quarantine for a minimum of 30 days. If we felt like everything was good, then we might shorten it some. But for the most part, we go with a 60-day quarantine, especially with everything that's been going on recently with all the different flus and stuff. We are extremely vigilant. When we go from house to house, we go from the brooder house to the hen house or to the, we wash our hands in between. We don't allow visitors inside of our hen houses. So it's just really important to make sure you're being aware of the illnesses that are out there and protect your flock the best you can. Signs of illness. I really like cardboard when I'm doing an isolation. You saw on the film that I used cardboard in the bottom. I like cardboard because it can be thrown away. There are other things you can use. Just make sure you're washing your cages really, really well between isolating animals. Make sure you're not passing anything to the next animal. It's amazing how resilient some of these strains, some of these illnesses can be. And you just want to make sure you don't pass that on to your next animal. That's all I can think of for today. If you have any questions, let me know. Talk to you soon.